What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Wolfcryer back at it again with another build review for patch 2.6.4 on the PTR for Season 16 in Diablo 3. And this review is going to be the Inna's Wave of Light build. Both versions, the GR push version and the speed farming variant, which is very fast, especially with that Season 16 Ring of Royal Grandeur buff. This thing is really fast, pretty much right out the gate. Alright, so for the push build, it's looking like this thing during Season 16 with that buff for the Royal Ring of Grandeur should be capable of a GR 125 plus. Normal without that buff, you're looking at probably around GR 110, maybe 115. Maybe you could squeeze it a little bit further than that, but I'm not too sure. That Royal Ring really comes in handy with that extra spot for your Obsidian Ring. And this thing overall just deals a massive amount of damage. I'm really enjoying patch 2.6.4 because it brings a lot of other variants of builds into the fray where you're not stuck just playing Sunwoko's Wave of Light. More builds become viable for that high level GRs of about 100 to 115, 120 range. You're looking at a ton of builds that are capable of doing this, which really opens up your ability to play what you want. And this is one of those builds that really is pretty awesome to play because you get to use that Rabid Strike, and that brings out a second clone of yourself that casts your Wave of Light as well, meaning you don't need convention of elements with this build. This build works off the 6-piece Inna set. You only need to wear 5 during Season 16 because of that buff. And you're just going to wear the gloves, chest piece, belt, pants, and boots. And this set combined with your Crutus boots from your cube gives you 15,000% damage increase, which is absolutely insane damage for this build. It does make it really close to the Sunwoko's version. This version might actually be better during Season 16 because of that buff and your ability to decimate mobs with it. It is a little bit squishier than the Sunwoko's version in my opinion, but you can offset that by the amount of life that you get simply by wearing your Inna's set. In addition to this set, you're looking at wearing the Traveler's Pledge Compass Rose set. You gain that 50% damage reduction while you're moving and 100% damage increase while you're standing still, casting off those Wave of Lights. You're going to be wearing Pinto's Pride, which slows enemies and gives you extra damage towards that Wave of Light. You're looking at fire skill damage and crit chance on these, as well as Dex and Vitality. For your shoulder slot, you're running Lefebvre's, which is weird on a Wave of Light build, but you're actually using this for the damage mitigation because you don't have a ton of damage mitigation. That, I would say, is one of the cons for this build, is it's very squishy and you don't have a lot of ways to mitigate some of that damage. You're pretty much just wearing your Lefebvre's. You're running Unity for that split 50% between you and your follower. You want to make sure you have one on, your follower has one on, and he has that relic that allows him not to die. And then you've got your Epiphany, which also gives you another 50% damage reduction, but that's it for damage reduction. Those, and while you're moving, you get that 50% from your Traveler's Pledge and Compass Rose. For your Helm, you're going to be running that Sokrin's Gaze, which lets you cast your Wave of Light further out from you, allows you to cast it towards an enemy, and it increases your Wave of Light damage. You're looking for crit damage and a high Wave of Light damage. Preferably, you want some cooldown on this as well. This build is very cooldown reliant. You want to make sure you have cooldown on your Helm if possible, and you want to make sure that there's a diamond in this Helm. You're looking for cooldown on both of your weapons. You will be using the Kayoshiro's Blade, which increases the damage of Wave of Light by 150% and then up to 250% if it hits 3 or fewer enemies. And then you are also running Rabid Strike. This is the difference in the build. You don't need that Vengeful Wind because you don't have to worry about your stacks for your Sweeping Wind. And this allows you to have a clone of yourself also firing off those Wave of Light blasts, pretty much doubling your damage during this period of when you have Epiphany up, which is why you want a lot of cooldown and you want that Obsidian Ring. You want to be in Epiphany as close to 100% of the time as you can. This is going to allow you to deal massive amounts of damage. For the other things in your cube, you're looking at Incense Torch, which reduces the spirit cost of Wave of Light by 50% and increases its damage by 550%. And then, like I said, you're running that Obsidian Ring, which is going to allow your Wave of Light to reduce the cooldown of both your Epiphany and your Mystic Ally, which is going to let you get your spirit back faster. It's going to keep that clone out, firing off the Wave of Lights whenever you do, and it's just going to deal a ton of damage. I'm really enjoying this build. For the speed version of this build, you switch out the Rabid Strike for an Ingium, and you switch out your Pinto's Pride for a Nemesis Bracers. GR70s melt with this build. The fastest I've gotten is 1 minute and 25 seconds. None of my runs have been over 2 minutes whatsoever that I've done with this build. Especially with this Obsidian Ring and your Ingium, you're just able to fly through the rift, pretty much slaughtering everything without the need for Pinto's Pride or that Rabid Strike. It just deals a ton of damage. As a matter of fact, I did a GR70 with this build with 0 Paragon points allocated at all in 1 minute and 32 seconds. This build is very, very fast for T13 farming and those lower level GR farming for gem ups. I even did a GR80 with this build at 800 Paragon in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. This build is just ridiculously fast, allowing you to farm up very, very quickly those gem ups and those keys and those DBs. Now, the good thing about Sun Wuko's is it's still just as fast, and you can also wear that Sage's set if you're looking for more Death's Breath. So Sun Wuko's is still a viable speed running build. It's still a viable GR pushing build as well, capable of at least GR 120, just like this one. I'm not sure which one's better, but I'm still leaning towards during Season 16 with that ring buff. This is the better of the two builds, which is pretty cool because it brings another Innis build into the fray, gives you like 5 or 6 builds capable of doing GR 120, somewhere around that area with decent Paragon, decent gear, and some augments. And I'm really loving this patch so far. Now for your gems with this build, I'm using Stricken for the Rift Guardian killing, and Bane of the Trapped because it's just pretty much necessary in all GR pushing builds, and it's very useful in speed farming builds as well. It adds a chunk of damage. You need Bane of the Trapped in almost every single build that there is in Diablo 3. Then I'm running Zaze for the increased damage the further enemies are away from you, and you want to make sure that enemies are far away from you anyways because you're going to get one shot by a lot of things. Keeping them at range, increasing your damage, keeping your Epiphany up. This is just a powerhouse of a build, but don't get caught in a sticky situation where you're going to die because that definitely will slow down your progress in the Rift. For your skills, you're looking at Epiphany. Like I said, that 50% damage mitigation, and this is going to be up the majority of the time with this build. As long as you've got a decent amount of cooldown, you're looking at over 50% cooldown, preferably to make sure that combined with your Obsidian Ring, Epiphany is up pretty much all the time. And this is going to give you that damage bonus, and this is going to bring out that second clone of you firing off those Wave of Lights. Then you're looking at Dashing Strike, Blinding Speed. This is going to give you 40% increased dodge chance, as well as allowing you to dash around the rift, dash out of trouble, and get through those rifts very, very quickly. Then the bread and butter of the build, Wave of Light. This is going to be your main source of damage, and it's just going to obliterate mobs, especially while Epiphany is up. Then I use Mantra of Salvation Agility, another damage mitigator. It gives you some resistances. It also gives you 35% increased dodge chance, which is always good. And then you're going to use Mystic Ally. It doesn't matter which one that you put here because you get the effects of every single Mystic Ally that you have because of the Inna's Mantra set. Then you're looking at Cyclone Strike, Eye of the Storm. You don't want Implosion here simply because it'll pull too many mobs to you. You're not looking at using this to pull mobs into you. You're looking at this to trigger your Lefebvre's Soliloquy and gaining that 50% damage mitigation from it. So you want a smaller radius, and Eye of the Storm lowers the cost to 26 spirit. So very useful to make sure you're not sucking up all your spirit using it on this instead of casting those Wave of Lights, triggering your Obsidian Ring, getting back into Epiphany, and firing off even more Wave of Lights. Also, don't forget that your Mystic Ally is a heal, as well as a spirit replenisher. So make sure that you're using this when you're low on spirit or when you're about to die. This is pretty much a second health pot that also replenishes your spirit. Very important to know with this build because it definitely comes in handy, especially with this version because it is so squishy. For the passives, I'm using Exalted Soul for that increased spirit regeneration. You want to make sure you've got spirit up as much as possible. This is going to help you out a lot. Your Mystic Ally is going to help you out a lot. And your Mystic Ally active is going to help you out a lot. Then I use Harmony for 40% of your single elemental resistances from items. Instead, increase your resist to all elements. Beacon of Ytar for the cooldown. Like I said, very, very cooldown reliant for this build, and you want to make sure that Beacon of Ytar is in your passives. Then I use Guardian's Path for that 35% increased chance to dodge incoming attacks because we are dual wielding, and this definitely helps with the damage mitigation as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so there you have my review of the Inna's Wave of Light build for Season 16 in Diablo 3. Now, this is viable for non-season as well, but I'm not sure it can push as high because of that Obsidian Ring. I think you either need to drop off Obsidian Ring or Unity to fit that Ring of Royal Grandeur in. You could probably take off the So Krins as well, but I'm not sure how that would affect it because now you'd become a melee caster of that Wave of Light, and I'm not sure you want to be doing that with such low damage mitigation. But I've already done a GR 100 in about 6.5 minutes without using that Ring of Royal Grandeur buff. I pretty much cubed Ring of Royal Grandeur instead of the Obsidian Ring so that I wouldn't get that bonus for Season 16, and I was still able to fly through a GR 100. But it's very squishy, and without that Obsidian Ring bringing your Epiphany up fast enough, I'm not sure how high it can go without taking a ton of deaths during the Rift. All right, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Inna's Wave of Light is a thing in Season 16, which is pretty cool, and the speed farming version of it is very, very fast. So definitely another build you can check out in the upcoming season as long as all these buffs stay intact for patch 2.6.4. Hopefully they do because I'm really enjoying this patch. I'm liking how it balances everything out and allows you to have more free thought in your build processes and how you want to play this game. And this is what I think Diablo 3 was lacking, is that ability for multiple builds to reach that high level end game content. And now, with this build and with this Ring of Royal Grandeur buff, we pretty much have it. Hopefully, something going forward can help with that, offset that after Season 16, because Season 16 does look like it's going to be pretty fun. You can play a ton of different builds and get well above GR 110, and it's going to be crazy cool. All right, so I will be back with more videos for these 2.6.4 builds. I'm creating a list to compile into a top monk build for Season 16. So far, that's going very well with my testing because there's a lot of builds out there that are capable of reaching this level, and it's going to be fun. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for taking the time out of your day to click this video. I always greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let me know your thoughts in that comment section below. And you all have a fantastic day. Peace.